What's up, weaves? Welcome back to Anime Lane, the podcast where we take you down the yellow brick road of anime and have a look at everything it has to offer. On today's episode, we're stepping back into the Universal Century and Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket, directed by Fumihiko Takayama, written by Hiroyuki Yamaga and Kyosuke Yuki, music by Tetsuro... Tetsuro, I've just written it wrong. Kashibuchi. Animation production by Sunrise. It originally released in Japan between March 25th and August 25th, 1989 on VHS and Laserdisc. It was licensed in the US by Right Stuff or Nozomi Entertainment, as they were known on their home video label, prior to the Crunchyroll buyout, after which most of the Gundam licenses they just let lapse, and it's not currently available, along with 90% of the Nozomi library, who had released most of the Gundam stuff at that point. Yeah, and it is not currently available in the UK, but hopefully Anime Limited announce something soon. It's one of their more requested titles to release, and they've released a pretty good chunk of Gundam at this point. They pretty much are the UK distributor. And then we travel back to the Sengoku period and Sword of the Stranger, directed by Masahiro Ando, written by Fumihiko Takayama. I swear to God, that was a massive coincidence. Music by Naoki Sato, animation direction by Bones. It released in Japanese theaters September 29th, 2007. It is licensed in the UK by Anime Limited. As always, I'm your host, Notorious, and join me once again today, as always, is Shaun.
Yeah, I am the constant.
I'm getting better at the new introduction flow, but yeah. So that's fun little things about every so often licensing things crop up on this show where
it is an inevitability.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where anime licensing, more so than any other licensing in, movies and TV, it's just a bit of a fucking nightmare. And it doesn't help that, since the show started, the distributor landscape has massively changed, because Sony were just like, what if we just bought everyone? They bought Crunchyroll. No, sorry, they bought Funimation, then they bought Crunchyroll, merged them together, then they bought Right Stuff. Right Stuff mainly being a storefront, but they had their home entertainment label Nozomi, and then they, bought them, turned Right Stuff into the Crunchyroll store, and basically, without any formal addressing of it, they've practically just shuttered Nozomi completely. All the Gundam's titles have disappeared. There's not been anything new announced. So, yeah. It's one of those fun things where I didn't realize until we had picked it, we were watching it, and I was writing out the little introduction thing that I was like, oh yeah, this has just dropped into a point of, it's currently just not really available unless you're buying the Japanese version, which luckily Bandai seemed to have just decided, things are so fucky with the Gundam license, all our re-releases and new releases are just going to have English subtitles. They don't have the dubs, but they at least have the subtitles,
Yeah. Something to make it, so it's an option for the West if you have the ability to order.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to order them. You pretty much just go on to Amazon Japan, and most of them will ship to anywhere in the world.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, because, I've got a few of the Gundam Japanese releases. I've got Narrative.
I figured you would.
I've got Narrative, Kukuru's Dawn's Island, and I feel like I've got one more that has the English subtitles on it, but it's escaping my mind, because I also have the old Zeta release prior to that, but that's for different reasons. We'll talk about that when we get to Zeta. That's a whole other can of worms. But moving on to that,
that is upcoming.
That is upcoming. But to actually move on to the discussion of War in the Pocket before people start telling us it's been too long before we actually start talking about the thing we're meant to be talking about.
Yeah, we should stay here once again. On this show, we ramble. We ramble a lot. Yeah. It's what we do. I'm sorry, you're kind of just going to have to deal with that if you're going to listen to us speak. We're sorry, except we're not really sorry.
It has been 3 and a bit, almost 4 years since we last touched this franchise.
If I remember correctly, we watched the movie trilogy of the original series because that's just the easier way to view them at the time.
Yeah.
Because they're not on Netflix anymore. I did check.
No, they're not. They're not.
It was like late August, late August, and then it took about a month or so to get through them all while we were recording.
Yeah, so it was season 1, and we covered the first movie on episode 6. We covered the second movie, Soldiers of Sorrow, on episode 8, and then we covered the third movie, Encounters in Space, on episode 10. So it took about 3 months from time of upload to cover them. I think recording it was a little less than that, but the first episode came out on August 19th, 2022.
I do remember the third one, or maybe it was the second one. It was a big gap at the time between us recording and that episode coming out.
I think it's that was early days where we hadn't really solidified the sort of workflow we have for the podcast now. That this year's been through a little bit out of whack for multiple different reasons, but that's, life's gonna get in the way of things. But we generally follow
We've got a sort of structure.
Yeah, we have a pretty specific structure in how we approach things now that's evolved from the winging it days of season 1. And we covered the original trilogy. I'm calling it the original trilogy for lack of a better term.
I remember trying just recently I was trying to talk to you about how do we refer to the original trilogy, because it's not really original, because they are movies of a series.
I guess original trilogy is like the best way to go for it, because then you've also got like the Zeta trilogy, which is a whole other beast. It's not like the first Gundam trilogy or the 0079 trilogy or whatever you want to call it, because the one for the original series is a straight like this is the series presented as 3 2-and-a-bit-hour movies, whereas the Zeta
just cut them in like this way.
The Zeta movies are subtitled a new translation because they change things, and they completely change the ending, which is why it's taken us so long to get to here and just covering War in the Pocket, because it was pretty much always a basis of like, there is the movie edit there for Zeta, however I don't really want to go that route because the movie edit of Zeta doesn't flow into Double Zeta or Shark Counterattack like the show does. It's its own thing. So I was like, fuck, okay, well, we only have the option of the 50 episode series. And fast forward almost 4 years later, here we are. I decided to ease us back into it and do War in the Pocket.
Which is fair. And to be fair, it did take us a while to be confident in covering shows for a while.
Yeah, because that was the whole other thing, is we had never really covered shows up until season 3 when we did Ava. I think Ava was our first. No, we did Oshinoko.
Yeah, we did Oshinoko, but that was like a whole thing where we separated it into arcs, and also for shows that are only like 12 or 13 episodes, it was more manageable to start off with. But like, Zeta's 50 episodes long-ish, isn't it?
Yep, it's bang on 50.
I should know, I should know, I just looked at it like not long before we were recording. It's a big one. And I'm glad we did Eva first, because that got us to the 26 episodes that it is, and that's a better ease.
Yeah, I mean, we've never covered anything quite as long as Ava again. Everything else has sort of been 13, 12 episodes, and now we're stepping up to a big 50, which is daunting, because I don't know the last time I actually sat down and watched a 50 episode anime in its entirety.
It's intimidating for me, I will say.
I can imagine. It's funny because I was thinking, damn, there's stuff like we've never once broached the idea of covering something like Bleach or Dragon Ball or One Piece or anything like that, because they are just unfathomably long. And
if we tried to do that, we would unfortunately be sticking with that for multiple years,
yeah,
I feel.
That's it. It's like it would be an arc every couple of months, and it would take forever to get through even just to catch up to One Piece.
Yeah.
And it would take forever to get through like something like Bleach.
Yeah, and like the thing we're most consistent on is like a continuing series throughout is Lupin. But even we get sick of Lupin.
Yeah,
if we've watched one.
We take
like
breaks.
every like in a short enough time period, we're like, okay, we need to take a big break here for a good few months.
But yeah, so to the actual OVA that we watched, which is War in the Pocket.
To War in the Pocket.
I guess I never really mentioned this when we brought up covering it, and the show itself never really, it does it all kind of contextually in a way that if you take as big a gap as us in covering the previous entry, the trilogy, you could be confused as to when this takes place and what the sort of background of the universe that this is taking place in is. And that's fair enough. I, as a massive Gundam head, did not think that through.
Yeah, I will say, hi, you're basically describing me. I was a little unsure, like from what I had, for some reason, got in my head. I'm not sure where the idea really came from. I thought this might be a prequel to the show.
I can kind of get that, given the sort of sedated nature of the story that's going on, and like the fact that it's like a single team infiltrating a single colony. It feels like in the grander scheme of the story that takes place in the original Gundam show, it's hard to imagine something as small scale as that taking place. It becomes a very large conflict.
And I do want to ask, because this is something I'm still not 100% sure about, is this colony that we're on, was this shown in the original like series at all?
I don't think Side 6 is in the original show. They start off in Side 7. That's where they're doing Operation V, which is to build the Gundam. You get the Gundam prototype, and then you get the RX-78-2, which is the one that Amuro picks up and pilots, and then they get on the white base, they leave, and if I remember correctly, I may be mixing this up with Zeta, I think they go to the moon, and then they end up going to Earth, and then they go back to space, and then they go to Side 2.
I do remember them going to Earth. I'm not sure I remember the moon, but I do remember definitely in the second original trilogy movie, they were on Earth for a bit.
Yeah, a surprising amount of just Gundam in general kind of starts in the colonies, and then a huge chunk just takes place on Earth.
I mean, it's the home planet. Everyone loves it. You know Earth.
Considering this is a war about the independence of the space colonies, you would think most of it would take place.
But we are the Earth Federation, not the Colony Alliance or whatever. That's those fuckers over there. And even then, not really. I think Zeon was like one colony, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was I think, if I remember correctly, the Principality of Zeon comes from Side 1. Let me just double check that. Principality of Zeon.
Come on, Gundam head, be the expert.
It's keeping all of the colonies in order in my head of like what Side 3 is where Zeon comes from. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting it mixed up. I think they go to Side 1 at the end of Side 1, and then they go to Side 2 at the end of Side 2. I think actually I'm getting the original trilogy. I think that's where Aobaoku is, and the final battle sort of takes place in the space of Side 1. Side 2 is the one that gets dropped on Australia as the sort of impetus of the series.
Yeah, I remember you reminding me of that.
Yeah.
Like, partway through this, and I was like, that happened, yeah.
Yeah, Australia kind of doesn't exist anymore. And...
Oof.
Yeah. So, yeah, because also a thing that I don't think the any of them ever really explain is that the sides are in a single colony. They are the region that certain like groups of colonies inhabit. So Zeon is a group of colonies from which are Side 3. So there's a multiple different I don't think they have any other specific name outside of colonies. So that's the confusing part. And so, you know, Side 6, we specifically see Rhea, which is the colony that it takes place on. And you'll get like other ones that have names. Like there's I think it's Sweetwater from Char's Counterattack. And there's a couple other ones that are escaping my mind. But yeah, the world of Gundam is a little... It can be confusing at times.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like...
And it's one of those ones where it just sort of, rather than spending the time to over-explain things, it's just like, let's just throw you in and you'll figure it out.
You'll pick it up.
Yeah,
you'll
get
it.
Yeah.
You'll get it. That explains a lot, because I do remember in the like original trilogy, like there were some parts that were like, okay, that's just a thing I'm just supposed to just accept.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, new types, I remember being like the epitome of that, because they just start mentioning them at some point, if I remember.
Yeah, the original series has this weird thing of like, it does start out as a real robot show, but as it progresses, it sort of shifts into super robot near the end, because for some reason Amuro and a couple of other people are like new types, people who have
new type powers.
Yeah.
Like, I remember vividly when they were coming up, like I was just like, so they're kind of like mutants from X-Men? And I remember you going, no. And like you shut me down so fast, I was like, okay.
The whole reason I shut down the like mutant thing is because in Zeta and sort of like later entries, there's like attempts to forcefully create new types, and so those are kind of closer to the concept of a mutant, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Whereas new types are meant to be just people who are better adapted to living in space and therefore better pilots, but sometimes they've also got psychic-esque abilities.
Yeah, because I remember Swan Lady.
Yeah.
I vividly remember Swan Lady.
Lala.
Because she just, Lala. She just sort of appeared, did some psychic stuff with Amuro, and then, like, did she die?
She, yes and no. Because
it's not clear.
Physically, yes. Spiritually,
she's a ghost.
She's kind of part of all the people she interacted with after that.
She planted a mental egg of herself inside everyone's brain. That's fucked up. You can't do that. No one consented to that. Yeah,
and one of the funny things is that despite... Like, they also... I think there's a... maybe I'm misremembering this, because it has been a while since I've gone through the Universal Centuries, like, original storyline. Is like, I think there's a whole concept of, like, if you're in proximity of other new types and you're under situations of stress with other new types, that you will be more predisposed to developing new type abilities, which is hilarious because this entire fucking storyline, Char never becomes a new type. He's just a guy.
He's purely living off on those sunglasses. That's all he needs.
Yeah. War in the Pocket, though.
Yeah. Okay, I do want to state, I really liked the story.
Mm-hmm.
This was a really sweet story. As like just a little pocket story.
Yeah.
In the middle of a war. It was very nice,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed it.
Oh, okay. There
we go.
Summarization, I guess. Yeah, I really like it as an exploration of some of the ideas that the original Gundam series was going for, but kind of had to be a bit distracted from to actually tell a story, which is sort of Amuro's more subtle story arc of like the loss of innocence. Obviously that's a big part of his character arc, but it does it after he deserts and comes back in the original show. It never really gets much more focus and exploration, whereas here it takes the idea of like, well, what is it like to be in a time of war, but you're not directly exposed to the war, and then that war shows up on your doorstep and you're suddenly witnessing death. And
because Amuro's story, it was definitely like a loss of innocence thing, but like he was like at the heart of the war. Like he was on a warship for a good like chunk of that. You saw things from the military side. He was a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of got distracted by the fighting and all the action.
He had to become a soldier at some point, like he had to embrace being the pilot of the Gundam in order for the story to actually progress after a certain point and not spin in circles the entire time.
Yeah, which War in the Pocket doesn't do, but like it manages to like tell a story sort of on the home front to sort of try and like give it a term.
Yeah.
Even though it's not really the home front, this is like a neutral colony, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
I guess you could see the neutral colonies as the home fronts, considering like it's the original the 1 year war is sort of like supposed to be a war of independence of like the colonies from Earth, or specifically it's the Xeon colonies from Earth.
But like the problem is they're space Nazis.
Yeah, that does happen.
So it's like, and I appreciate that sort of makes it a whole lot of grey thing, because usually colony independence, that's not really an inherently bad thing.
Yeah.
But they're space Nazis.
Yeah.
So maybe just don't.
That's actually
just stop doing that.
That's sort of the fascinating part of like when War in the Pocket specifically takes place, because it's very much the last days of the war, because the 1 year war ends on January 1st, 0080, after starting on January 3rd, 0079. So this is like the last. It feels like 3 weeks maximum could have passed.
Yeah.
In these episodes, because obviously the last few are taking place like Christmas time, and then we've got like the New Year thing at the end, but it's that fascinating thing of at this point Degwin's dead and Jiren, I forget how you say his name, has taken over, and that is the point where like they do become literal space Nazis.
Like it was still sort of like a principality, sort of, autocratic dictatorship from what I remember, but then by the time what's his name? You just said it.
Degwin. Or Jiren. Which one?
Giran. Yeah, he was a son, right?
Yeah, he was the first son.
Okay, I'm just gonna say the son, because I know I'm gonna fuck up the pronunciation later. When the son takes over, that's when it goes full on space Nazi insane.
Yeah, because there's the whole conversation between Degwin and Jiren of like, do you know of Hitler? And a lot of people take that very much at face value when Degwin is trying his best to be like, I may be a bit of a dick. You, on the other hand, son, you're going a little too far.
Yeah.
You're about to become a real fucking monster. And then he kills him.
Yeah. Not to go like a little bit into like history nerd thing, but it's like if Degwin was like a classical, or not classical, like Victorian era European monarch who like was the head of an empire, then the son was sort of like Wilhelm II, who was stupid and aggressive, mixed with Hitler.
Yeah.
Which, you know, interesting story and all that, but like the thing is, it's if I remember correctly, it also sort of signified the downfall of Zeon from there, because like things, I remember things just sort of spiraling out of control, and you do see that a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because like the Zeon forces that we see in this attacking this colony has like a sort of coup at one point, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's like there's the people above them, and then like there's a change in who's in charge.
I think if I caught it correctly, one of the officers was like, "This is insane. We're not doing this. This is just pure like insanity." And like I think it's the officer that's higher above him is like, "Well, we're doing it anyway."
Yeah.
And then gets wasn't specifically order, but like the people underneath the rational officer shoots him in the back.
That's
and then
right.
goes along with the higher officer.
Yeah, the Zeon scenes feel a little disconnected from everything else that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only like what, 2-3 of them?
Yeah, because once they get onto the colony, the stories merge up and become a bit more fleshed out. But it is funny because you step back from, here's this, you know, nice little story of Al.
Yeah, pretty personal.
Here's a Nazi.
Yeah. Here's the war that's going on in like the wider lore, by the way. That's about what this is about. I do want to say, by the way, but like the first time we see like the higher ups of like this force of like Zeon, I do like, and I don't know if I'm thinking about this a bit too much, because I know thinking too much about Gundam, this is just a fun robot show. There's nothing deeper going on here. What do you mean there's a meme about that? But I do like the sort of parallel, because we get like one of the first scenes in the classroom with Al and the girl who I don't think gets a name.
I don't think she gets a name, no.
she's just Twin Tails girl.
Yeah.
They have like a kid argument, a sort of, you know, very low stakes thing, but then like I think the scene right after that is when we first see like the upper officers of the Zeon detachment, and they bicker in a pretty similar way to the actual fucking children, and I thought that was a really nice writing thing.
Yeah, I love the moment when they're having that meeting and one of them just accidentally kicks the table and everyone looks at him, because you think it's going to be that moment of the officer getting frustrated and airing their thoughts and how they disagree with this, and he just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm so sorry."
Fuck, please, sorry, no. Yeah, but see, that feels, that little bit of like writing, and it's something that like I actually appreciate from Gundam, like, and especially just as we were watching, it was like there's a lot of moments that make everything feel really human and very like quote unquote realistic.
Yeah, more grounded.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Grounded.
It's one of those things where I think Gundam's one of those, because it's one of my favorites. It's one of those things I think back to when we covered The Exorcist, and I didn't participate in that conversation very much, and that's simply because I was more interested in hearing you guys talk about it, and I would pitch in and answer questions, or like I would present a question and just listen to you guys talk about that. And I think that's sort of something I'm feeling here, thinking about War in the Pocket, is it's like, I like the OVA. I think it's a real standout amongst some of the side content for the Universal Century specifically. But I'm also sitting here like, I have no idea what to say about it at this point in time, you know?
That you haven't, like, already said.
Yeah, and I think it's because I've gushed about it to people before that I'm like, oh fuck, I may have expended everything I have to say about it. Because I remember saying that, I think I said that about The Exorcist when we were recording it. It's like, I feel like I've said everything I can say about this movie at some point in my life. But no, I really like how it scales everything down into such a personal story, because it's taking place at the point in the original series story where things are massive. They are so large scale. This is the point where Amuro has become like a god in the machine, you know?
He's become like a full-on hero, like, to, like, I imagine the Federation forces.
Yeah, and like, he's mythologized amongst the Zeon at that point too.
Yeah, my mind is going to the thing I'm a massive nerd of, which is Star Wars, and I'm liking it to, like, how in the lore Anakin in the Clone Wars became like a big, like, the poster boy for, like, the Republic in the war, and was like mythologized as like the hero with no fear, and just sort of like plastered everywhere. I imagine it's something like that for Amuro.
Yeah, a little bit, because at this point in time, it's definitely a case of, like, no one knows who he actually is, though. Like, they're maybe aware of the things going on, but I don't
They've
think
heard the legends.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be until after that people actually kind of knew about who he was, because the Gundams were even still very kind of mythological at that point, too.
Yeah.
Because there was the one Amuro was piloting, and then I think maybe some of the ground tights were rolling out during this. I can't remember when the 8th MS team takes place.
I mean, it sort of gets brought up here where, like, Al and, like, well, Al has, like, no idea what a Gundam is. Like, he's never heard of it before when they're talking about it, and, like, his friends are like, yeah, it's this new super secret weapon the Federation are rolling out. Stuff. Yeah. And it's like, it's cool that you just sort of see that on the ground level and really get a sense of just what people outside the main characters of the, like, original series were, like, reacting to everything happening, which, from the perspective of someone who has only seen the original trilogy of movies, we didn't really get much of a sense of, because it was too focused in on Amuro's story, and, you know, he didn't have time to give, like, an interview or anything to anyone else. There weren't any, like, press around. It was too. He was strictly in that space, in that warship.
Yeah.
Yeah, job to do.
Yeah, at that point in time, there would have been the original Gundam, which, as we find out in this, was due to be upgraded had the war gone on any longer. That's what the NT is supposed to be, or the Alex, as they call it in this one. That's the
and that was another point where I got confused in the timeline, because I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be, like, the Gundam that we see, like, just before it had been shipped off to wherever Amuro was.
No. So this is a derivation, I guess. It's an upgraded model of the RX-78 that we see in the original. There would have been, I think, like, maybe 3 other types of Gundams kicking about at this point in time. One of which would have been the ground types that were on Earth doing, like, guerrilla ops on any of the Zeon invading forces. I think 8th MS team is, like, the one I haven't watched yet, and it's killed me for years that I just haven't sat down and watched it. And then there's I think there's a few other, like, developmental, experimental models that maybe crop up in other OVAs or side stories. And eventually it leads to just so many different types of Gundams in Zeta. There's just there's just so many of them. You get the Mark II, and then you get the Zeta, and you've got like stuff that's derived from the Gundams, like the Hyakushiki and the Psycho Gundam, and just so many Gundams.
When do we start to hit the point of like Iron Man 3 where there's too many fucking suits and you gotta kill like just a bunch of them off because this is excessive, man?
I think that happens after like Char's counterattack, because Gundams kind of disappear in between that and Unicorn, which takes place in 0097, and Char's counterattack would have been 0089, I think.
And when do we get the Gundams that start corresponding to countries?
Oh, that's Mobile. Oh god, what's the full title again? Mobile Fighter G Gundam. That is an alternate universe. That's the first ever alternate universe.
I hope so, because if they're just like doing that now to these things, I'm gonna lose like all seriousness for them, because you've shown me those things.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the big bull Gundam seriously.
Yeah.
Or the windmill Gundam.
That's actually one of the funniest things right now, is that there's currently polls going on for like different regions' favorite Gundams. And one of them that showed up, I can't remember if it was the Spanish poll or the American poll, but the Tequila Gundam showed up. However, it wasn't called the Tequila Gundam in the poll. Okay. It was called the Spike Gundam. And then in another one, I saw the Windmill Gundam. However, it wasn't called that. It was called the Hurricane Gundam.
Bullshit.
I was like,
Fucking
are
bullshit.
we just retconning the things that were written in very clear and literal katakana in the original G Gundam show?
I'm sorry, I had to look up Tequila Gundam, because when you hear that, like, I'm certain you've shown me this before, and that is still a very stereotypically Mexican Gundam. That's a sombrero, and cactus arms. But like, I was genuinely just expecting a straight up Gundam like shot glass.
No, so you got the Tequila Gundam, which is the Neo Mexico Gundam, and then you've got the Matator Gundam, which is the Neo Spain Gundam, and then you've got the Windmill Gundam, which is the Neo Holland Gundam.
Oh, you said Holland.
Oh, it's called Neo Holland in the show, so I'm only directly quoting.
Okay. I am gonna tell Melina though, and I'm sure she will react very normally.
What do we get? We get the did we get the Rose Gundam? No, that's France, I think. We get the John Bull Gundam?
So no, the English get that, because that is just a purely English thing, John
Yeah, but
Bull.
I don't think there is a Neo Scotland. I think it's just Neo Britain. Fuck
them then. Fuck them. And fuck Gundam. I hate Gundam now. Doesn't recognize my Neo country. I want our if there is a Neo Scotland one, I want it to either be a unicorn or a whiskey glass.
Yeah, it is the John Bull Gundam. I'm trying to see if there's like a country thing.
I'm seeing on like this wiki page,
Neo England.
Manufacturer Neo England.
Yeah. I just seen developed from Britain Gundam, and I'm like, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is there a Neo Scotland Gundam? Is it the Unicorn, or is there not? I don't think there is a Neo Scotland. At least not in the actual like competition.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that says there can't be a Neo Scotland. So
Yeah, it's not
until stated otherwise. I'm going to pretend in my heart it's either a unicorn or a whiskey glass. I don't know how the whiskey glass would work, but I'm sure they'd find a way.
They'd find a way. They made a fucking windmill into a Gundam.
Oh, that's such a great sight.
It's good that you brought up or sort of prompted me to bring up Mobile Fighter G Gundam, because that was the first ever alternate universe entry.
Okay.
And oh, I thought that light was not on. I just need to turn it up. Apologies. War in the Pocket is the first ever spin-off or side story. It's the first non Tomino led project in the Gundam series.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it was created to celebrate the series' 10th anniversary. Obviously, the original show aired in 1979, and this came out in 1989.
Yeah, I was gonna say this was 89, wasn't it?
Yeah. And yeah, so it was like the first one to really kind of come and fill in some of the little other parts of the Universal Century. And we would get stuff, other stuff later. We would get Stardust Memory, and then you would get 08th MS Team. I always say it differently. I don't know if it's 8th MS Team or 08th MS Team, like how you say the Universal Century year designations. There's other ones that I'm just completely blanking on, and then you would end up eventually in the 90s. You would get the actual spin-offs and alternate storylines where you would get G Gundam, which is so fucking different, just completely different from anything else. And then you would get Gundam Wing, which would start the what's the nice way of putting it? Constant rehashing of the original series concepts into just slightly different
when they found a formula and they just sort of stuck to it.
Yeah, because you would have Wing Seed, G-Cux, which is a slightly different approach to it, I guess, which all just take, what if we told the story of the original series with different ideas and different characters, but they still ultimately, at the end of the day, you kind of know you're just watching a retelling of this.
It's the same arc, basically.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting I can say about War in the Pocket, because I feel like
character-wise, I think everything's cool. Like, I feel bad calling him not Char, because he's not anything really like Char.
Yeah.
But, like, he is a blonde Zeon soldier
he puts
who
the
wears sunglasses
on
at one point.
Yeah.
And I had a jump scare where I was like, you! For extra context, dear listener, for the last few years, not just you, but, like, people I follow on, like, social media will just start Gundam posting about Char.
Yeah, and we start Char posting. I
understand the fucking fascination with this blonde space boy, but every so often he pops up and it's like he haunts me in the fact that I don't get it.
Anyone who's a big Gundam head, you sometimes get caught with the Char posting fever.
What does he do? From all I know of him so far, he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah, that it's also funny because, like, when we first met, he was just like my profile picture on just about everything for the longest time.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Don't worry, you will.
I have to imagine it's something in Zeta at least is gonna make me understand, because I want to know. Barney, I do like as a character. I think is he really like the first Zeon character that we've met so far and what we've watched that's like sympathetic?
I would say so, because there's never really anyone in the original series that's from Zeon that's ever made sympathetic. I think it's the one flaw that I think hampers what the original series really goes for in the sort of like the grey morality of war that it tries to present, is that there's no one ever outside of like Char, who we don't see as that through the character on the Federation's side's eyes. We only see it through our scenes as an omniscient viewer. We never really get like a properly sympathetic character who tries to interact with the Federation in any meaningful way. They're all pretty much large character villains.
Yeah, like the closest we sort of get technically is Char's sister, I want to say.
Yeah, Sayla kind of, but like she's
a defector though.
Yeah. And also like a defector through, she was a kid, she didn't really have a choice.
Okay, yeah, that's it. So it's not like she made a conscious, like, moral decision because of that. It's more just, it just kind of happened that way.
Yeah. The origin kind of goes into that a little bit, but, like, they were kids, and, you know, that's when things started really kind of, like, Zeon started building itself during that time. And they would eventually, like, be run out of the colony of Zeon because of like their father's death, because he was the founder of the actual like belief system that they claimed to believe in, and he would be killed off, and then they'd be forced out of that colony, and eventually her and Char were split up, and Char would go on his revenge plot.
Become himself.
Yeah. Embed himself in the Zeon, you know.
And proceed to never betray anyone in his entire life. And that's like the only line I know of him, like past the original series, and I'm just like, you fucker. I remember you just like leaving that dude to die at one point. What are you talking about?
And then Sayla would I don't think she makes a straight shot to Side 7, but that's obviously where she ends up. And
she ends up, yeah.
So it's less of a, like, they defected and more were never, or Sayla specifically was never really part of Zeon as we come to know it.
Okay, sort of the, like, predecessor state, whatever it was.
If, again, to draw parallel to real history, it's like getting out of Germany in the early 30s when the Nazis...
when it was like the Weimar Republic. She's a refugee.
Yeah,
that's what
she's a refugee. Yeah, basically. It's like, I guess there's no direct comparison on the German side of it, but it's almost like being like one of like Lenin's kids, or not Lenin, but like Marx's kids, or something like that, you know, someone who doesn't really have a choice in who they're connected with.
Do you mean they're like the Romanovs?
Not necessarily, but like because her dad created like a philosophical belief system.
Yeah, you're right. I got you.
It's sort of
you're
like
going on the ideological standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying, is like there's no one really in Germany that fits this. Whereas it's like if I were to draw a comparison with someone in real life, it would be like being, you know, someone who, one of the people who founded the communist kind of belief system, and then they were
Stalin's son that he hated.
Yeah.
Because he was a terrible human being, but also, you know, surprisingly enough, not a great father either.
Yeah.
Who'd have guessed?
But yeah, in the original series, back to the point, because again we've got on a tangent here. We don't get a sympathetic character, so Bernie is sort of the first person in chronological, purely time within that universe.
And I appreciate that as someone who, again, has only seen the original series. It was good to like sort of, because it always did seem to come off that like the original like original trilogy wanted to make it a bit more gray, like with those like scenes of Shaw and a bit talk of like the sort of philosophies of like the people in Zeon and stuff. But because all of our main characters were like in the Federation forces, we didn't really get that.
It also doesn't help that the structure of the original series, where you kind of bounce from different members of the Zabi family being the antagonistic force at any given time, they're all kind of cartoonishly evil in a way that doesn't really allow for any more complexity, because they all kind of just have a gimmick as well.
Yeah, because I remember like arguably the least arsehole-ish of that whole family was like the sister
Kycilia, who Shaun kills off.
She's I remember she gets like headshotted or whatever, and like I do remember at the very least she's at least complicit in what's happening. So it's not like, you know, she's innocent by any means.
But I think she was in opposition to the way Jiren was taking things, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, she definitely had her own sort of like mini faction in it, which is like a fascinating, like a whole Game of Thrones thing, where like she's got people loyal to her, he had people loyal to him, and like she died like before he did, or was she after he died?
I think she was the last of the Zabis to die, because I'm sure she dies on Al Baoku from Char, and then Char.
I remember
goes
like
to fight
Amuro giving off like the one final headshot to like the final whoever it was.
Yeah. Maybe Kycilia did die before Jiren. I need to rewatch the original.
I should probably re-watch the series at all.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. There's a lot of character development that's just completely not present in the
I think we could feel that at the time.
Yeah.
But it's so back to the point. It was good to see Barney. It was also good to see that Zeon are still top to bottom, still dicks though, with the rest of the squad being like just straight up terrorists, kinda.
Yeah, they're pretty much like they believe in the cause, I guess is the best way to put it, you know.
Or at least they did until the cause stopped believing in them.
Yeah. Which, you know, fair enough.
Yeah, which again, that's a whole other like realistic sort of thing where like since it's clearly the end of the war and they can clearly tell they're not winning. They're gonna be on the losing side. You get that moment where like them and the captain is talking to like the informant bartender and they're like, we're gonna lose this war. The best thing we can do right now is just run and try and like integrate ourselves into wherever we end up and just stay quiet from there.
Yeah.
You can tell that like whoever was behind the strings on like these stories were like huge history buffs and like kind of military geeks, but also not the kind that are like red flaggy, you know?
Yeah, not the kind that that Tomino recently pointed a gun directly at the head of in an interview.
Which, you know, based as fuck, by the way. That shot my respect for him up like by a fuck ton.
It's one of those. It's an interesting thing that like, it's a shame we can't go directly to Stardust Memories from here, because even though it takes place before Zeta, it massively benefits having seen Zeta first.
There's plot elements that probably tie into things I probably want to learn about first in Zeta.
Yeah, because while I'm not the biggest fan of Stardust Memories, I find the concept that it goes for pretty fascinating, because it's sort of like an allegory of Operation Paperclip, almost, and like how it kind of tries to bring in people from Zeon and integrate them into you know, the Federation.
That are, you know, useful.
Yeah. Only problem in that version of the events is that it leads into Zeta and it backfires on them. So
interesting.
Yeah. So you can kind of see a little bit of like, that's the direction things would go here.
Because like that makes sense, because like if you're in that, if you're like a Xeon soldier and you're in that situation, of course that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get those stragglers that are just gonna find ways to survive, much like how the people in the actual fascist governments found ways to survive wherever they ended up. Which, you know, that's a whole conversation you can have.
Yeah. And it also goes into that sort of like, we do largely see the cartoonishly evil characters of Xeon in the original series, but then there's also that thing of like, the vast majority of the people in the Nazi army didn't exactly get a choice in the matter of being conscripted or being forced into service, and especially near the end of the war.
Yeah. There's a whole conversation about how, like, the German army was very much complicit. There was that.
100%. I'm not wiping away any of that.
No. We're not perpetuating the clean Weimar myth here at all.
No.
But like, I get what you mean. There were like definitely people conscripted who like couldn't get a choice in like doing anything else because it was a war state. Yeah, basically.
I mean, that one scene at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, once they've stormed the beach and they're up at the gun nests, and it's never subtitled, but they're not German soldiers. They're saying that they're Czech people who were forced into.
Yeah, they're basically like prisoners of war that were just like forced into like the German service from like their puppet government or whatever. Yeah. It's almost like there's a sort of commentary here about how war is a really like fucked up thing with like nuances to it, and that playing with people's lives in this way is like abhorrent in so many ways we can't even fathom. But it can't be that. This is just a cool robot show. Can't be that.
It's one of those like weird things about being a Gundam fan, because I'm a Gundam fan for like a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
One of them is like, I'm fascinated by how it manages to take parallels to real world events, because obviously like a lot of the directors and writers coming up at the stage that Gundam was coming out were people who were directly affected by World War II, and that's what a lot of stuff...
still in living memory.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of stuff in anime around that time started to become, was like anti-war messaging and parallels to World War II and stuff like that, and it would grow into, you know, nuanced ways of commenting on larger wars and conflicts and all this sort of stuff, and there's probably I don't want to say this and be wrong, but I feel like I'm remembering there's some elements of like Vietnam and Zeta and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, you know, it takes on, like, it consistently tries to be nuanced about how war affects us as time progresses, and how it affects everyone, and the sort of moral grey zone that some of it exists in, and all this sort of stuff. And I can't lie that I just love the big fucking robots.
Yeah, I did feel that a little bit, because I think this something that I was feeling a little bit of when we were watching the original trilogy, and especially here, is that all the nuanced sort of war takes that are clearly being presented here is fascinating. It interests me. It sort of tickles the brain, but like also the moment the robot basically pulled up its lightsaber, I'm sorry, I know it's not called that. I'm just calling it a lightsaber. They used the sound effect. Come on. The moment it had that, I was like, hell yeah, it's the giant robot time. I entered like Godzilla versus whatever monster he's against mode.
Yeah, that's a good comparison of like the Godzilla. There are two Godzillas. There is the one that's a commentary on nuclear power and nuclear weaponry and how we can't put the genie back in the bottle and the cost and effect of all that sort of stuff. And then there's the WWE entries where it's just a giant wrestling
music starts
match.
Playing.
Yeah. And Gundam does all of that, usually in the one package.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like the Eva thing, where like Eva has a whole interpersonal, like psychological story as well with its characters and like its interpersonal relationships and like, and all of its other lore fuckery that I love to shit. But at the same time, whenever like Unit 1 starts to go complete ape shit at that one part, I'm like, hell yeah! Fucking get him!
Like, because I could talk about all that stuff. We have just talked about all this stuff, and I'm also currently staring at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my desk alone model kits of Gundam, because you know you can't deny that one big aspect of it is that they can sell the funny plastic things for it.
Yeah, there is a part of it that is merchandising, because it's doing the same thing Star Wars did, where like, yeah, there's a story here, but like there's also like a good part of this where we're designing these stormtroopers and clone troopers and Boba Fett here to sell you some toys because you're kids and you love that shit. You've also just reminded me of one of the reviews I saw on Letterboxd, like not long after I like did mine, which was just like, it was the quote from one of the characters that said these machines, these things were not built to bring happiness. Great line, love that line, gets across so much of the theming. But then if they followed it up with me unpacking my model kit, fucking wrong. You're not gonna believe this shit.
Yup.
And yeah, they're right, but they shouldn't say it.
Some of those model kits do not bring happiness. I can tell you that much.
Oh yeah, did you once like accidentally cut yourself a few times building one?
I've cut myself. I have a scar on one of my fingers from where the blade went directly into my finger. I've broken kits that I've been building because some of those parts are fucking way more fragile than they should be. Some of them are just a bitch to build. I have Char's Zaku from the original series, and it's one of the, you get different complexities of kits, and I bought this not realizing it was a more complex kit, which means it's this one's the same size as the less complex ones, but it has more pieces and more moving parts, and that was so not fun to build as like my second or third experience of building kits. And then
I remember it vividly because you spent like a whole afternoon on that.
Oh yeah, I spent multiple afternoons on that one. There is like, I've built most of them in one sitting after that. The one, you can't see it, it's off screen for you and my camera, but my biggest one, I spent a whole afternoon building it and my hands were in agony after finishing it. That was the G
I can imagine.
Gundam, the big boy. My most disappointing one is the F91, which I finished building it and had in the palm of my hand and went, "You're so fucking small. Why are you so small?"
Was this really worth it?
And it's like, it's the same grade of kit. It costs the same as all the other kits, yet those kits are significantly bigger, and you're a dinky little shit. Why are you like this?
Worth it?
Yeah, it looks cool.
Okay, cool. I'm never buying them, but you know, it's cool for you.
Yeah.
I guess we're basically treating like us covering this as basically our soft reintroduction into Gundam as a whole. If we're being completely honest here, because we've really not talked much about the actual thing. And I am annoyed by that a little bit, but also I don't know what else to really say other than like the story it's told is really good. Al is a convincingly written kid.
Yes, yeah.
Most of the time, I think he's a little bit of a psycho in the fact that he seems to just kill frogs for no reason.
Yeah. He
just says that at one point.
Yeah, and also says like, I won't put snakes in people's shoes again, and also decides like, I'm gonna join war on the side of war.
You see, I can imagine the kid mindset of like, oh yeah, war is awesome, like big guns and stuff and explosions and stuff, but also nobody on this colony seems to have taught him, at the very least, who the bad guys are, which is weird for someone who has family in the Federation, has a neighbor who he knows is a Federation soldier.
Yeah.
Well, she says she's a data collector, but like in reality, she's a soldier.
Yeah, she's piloting that thing.
Yeah, of course she is. But also, Chris, I like her design. I'll admit that. I really like her design. She's really cute. I'm just gonna full disclosure right now. I thought she was really cute. She's a soldier. And for some reason, Al seems to take all of this and go, I'm gonna join the space Nazis.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't know they're space Nazis, but come on.
Yeah.
You didn't think maybe I'm on the bad guy's side here?
Yeah, like the fact
kids aren't that dumb.
No, like the fact they're doing terrorism never once seems to like cross his mind.
He's so ride or die for being an informant and basically a little spy for these guys. Like actively taking pictures of like Federation movements and stuff. The first time is like basically by mistake, it's excusable. But when he's actively doing it, it's like, kid, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why do you think this is a good idea?
The fact that
just
like
a tiny bit of introspection would be great.
Yeah.
At the very least, internalize the fact that your own friends are saying, no, Xeon are the bad guys.
Like that's the thing. They all say, oh, you know what, our parents told us this, and Al reacts like, oh, would you always believe what your parents say? Which is like, okay, it's fair enough, valid kid reaction, I guess. But also like the school's not telling him anything, his mum's not telling him anything, like.
It's the mum seemingly not to tell him anything, which I can sort of understand. Like a parent just wants to shield their kid from the war as much as possible.
Yeah.
Being on a neutral colony, that would line up. But at the same time, his dad's in the Federation, and I know his dad isn't the most present parent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you think the fact that his dad is in the Federation would maybe get him to think, maybe I should be more inclined to them. Yeah.
But he's very much against his parents in a way, which like I guess you can say stems from the lack of presence that they have. Like even though his mum's there, she seems to just not care that much.
No, like she goes to meetings and stuff like that, and like first off, based, she's going to like a women's association and stuff. Feminist icon, love her for that. But like, you're gonna be a little bit more present for your kid. Like, they bring up the whole grades thing, and it's clear she's trying, but she's also not perfect.
Yeah,
clearly. Which, okay, I guess I actually have to give the writing like props then, because that is legit realistic.
Yeah.
I hate that like sometimes it feels like we found like a criticism, and then I talk about it a little bit more and I'm like, oh wait, no, I see what they were probably trying to go for then. Yeah. Fuck, that makes sense.
I will say that like the school seems to take entirely too long to inform the mum that his grades are bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, do you want us to talk to your mom or do you want to talk to a counselor? And it's like, yeah, you offer a kid that, and yeah, they're not gonna want their parents involved. This shouldn't be an option like for the kid.
Weird. Yeah, especially when he's like, what, 11?
Yeah, he's like 10, I think. I think he says he's 10 at some point.
Okay. So, he's an actual child. He's barely even like a preteen.
Yeah. It's there was a point I had in my mind for a second there along the lines of absent parents, and it's left my mind.
You wanna go on your soapbox about absent parents? That's what it sounded like for a second. You're just gonna go on a rant about parenting these days.
Oh, well, I mean,
very much.
I could.
For extra context to your listener, we did kind of accidentally go on a little rant about that just by ourselves.
Yeah, pre-recording when we came into the call.
Because we both had like experiences just in like recently that have like brought that up.
Yeah, kids see
We're not old fuckers screaming into a microphone, but at the same time, have you seen kids? Have you met kids?
It's crazy just the some fundamental like lack of certain things that they're being taught. Like I don't know how many kids I've encountered recently around Al's age and a little bit older who like legit just can't seem to fathom the concept of the coins that they have to pay for things, and they can't seem to count them out and know what they are, and that baffles me, because that was like a core thing that we learned in like primary 1 and 2 was like, this is money.
In like our first year of schooling at all, we were physically taught what the coins were, how many pence made up a pound and stuff. So to hear that the kids seem to not be learning that is kind of baffling to us. Us old fuckers yelling at clouds.
I remember having to like sit and like trace the coins out as well. Like you would sit with a coin and you would draw around it.
Okay, I never got the coin tracing things, but I did clearly have, but it got drilled into us like the shapes of them and stuff. Because like the thing I remember is that like, how do you know which coins you have just from like in your pocket without looking? And it was basically just like, well, the 50 pence coin is like the largest one. The 2 pence coin, the £2 coin is like the bigger one, but it's like more circular or whatever. There was a system. It made sense. Which you don't really need to use anymore, because who uses cash other than kids these days, apparently, who don't have debit cards.
Well,
but still,
most of them do have debit cards, and that's a whole other conversation about.
Yeah, we're not going too far into this. I'm stopping it here.
I swear I had a point that was relevant to the show that we were actually talking about. And it escaped my mind.
As it relates to the show, the kids are kind of weird.
Yeah. Also, like, I get it's like neutral, but the Federation kind of have like a lack of presence too.
Yeah, like I mean that's a little bit realistic. Like it's a neutral colony officially, but it's very clear there's some underhanded like Federation alignment happening because the fact they've like signed treaties and stuff, and they're doing like secret base building and stuff underneath. Like it's clear they're neutral officially, but like under the table they're Federation aligned.
Yeah, that's what happens on Side 7 too. Is it's like they're neutral, but they have the Gundam project on board, you know, like.
But you know, there's just a whole bunch of high-ranking Federation officials that just happen to be in this colony.
Yeah.
Funny that. But you know, another grounded thing, because that happens.
Yeah. But like, not one of them. I don't know. Like it feels weird that, given where Al is and all the sort of things that he encounters, is it's like he was just raring to go.
Yeah,
to
he
join
was very
the Zeon.
Quickly jumping onto like the Zeon forces, to the point where it's like maybe later down the line when that kid's a teenager, we should maybe, you know, keep an eye on him, make sure you know he's not writing manifestos on whatever the Gundam universe's internet is.
It's because he shows like an utter lack of knowledge on either side.
Yeah, like even like no fundamental things that even like a kid would pick up. Like 'cause even as like kids, we knew Germany in World War II was bad.
Yeah.
Like very objectively, not even just because they're not us, they're just doing bad things.
Yeah.
We're sort of given the benefit of like being at a point in time where we learned about the Holocaust as kids.
Yes.
Like not like the super nitty gritty details, but just, you know, a lot of people died.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just weird to us that, like, apparently in the Gundam universe, in this colony, they just haven't talked any sort of world situation at all, or universe situation in this sense.
Especially when, like, an actual war that
is
could
happening,
affect that place is happening. That it's baffling the just lackadaisical way that Al seems to see, and maybe it is because we see so much of it through his perspective. It's like, maybe these are things that are happening, maybe they are educating these kids on these things, and maybe his mum,
but Al's too much of a dumbass to take it in,
and like maybe his mum has tried to talk to him about this sort of stuff and he's just been disregarding of it, and we don't see that, like, because it is only 6 episodes, there's only so much it can do. And
we are seeing that he seems to not give a fuck about anything anyone's actually trying to tell him.
It's just crazy that he's like, I'm gonna, I keep phrasing it this way, but he picks the side of war.
It's specifically on the side of, if anyone's gonna be the bad guys in his eyes, it's gonna be them. Like, realistically. So it's just kind of weird that he's so ride or die because one of the soldiers almost let him hold a gun. He didn't even get to hold the gun.
No.
He was just said, you might be able to hold this gun.
He got a patch. And then got another patch.
Which nobody points out, by the way, but he just has that patch. Not even the people in the Federation are like, why do you have a Zeon patch, little boy?
I have to just... The only explanation I can see is that they also sell them at the toy store like they do the Federation badges. And that's the only, like, possible thing I can think is why nobody's that concerned about it. But also, again, active war, I don't think anyone in Britain would have taken too kindly to someone running around with a swastika.
If even like a kid in the 40s, like, just randomly having a like some sort of patch like that on like this guy, you'd think one of the adults would be like, where the fuck did you get that?
Just a simple question of, how did you get that? Why do you have it? What do you think this means?
Yes. Especially when one of the main characters, Chris, again, Federation soldier, and she's the one that's mostly interacting with Al, who's not Bernie.
And he's wearing it in front of her, and she never even, like, looks at it and goes, huh?
And Bernie's, like, civilian clothes is still, like, basically a flight jacket with Zeon-ish symbols. And nobody seems to clock that. I also, another thing, just like with like the Bernie and like Chris thing, I like that he clearly gets a crush immediately. It's like, you know, same, understandable. But like, I do also like the thing is, there's no implication that like she likes him like that way at all.
No, he's barely on her radar.
I did think that was really funny that he's just like, hey, he just like near like the last few episodes, he's basically repeatedly telling Al, hey, say hi to her for me and like stuff, and I'm sure Chris is gonna be like, cool.
I mean, she does say at the end for Al to say hi to Bernie.
Yeah, okay, true.
So, but like, that's more because she thinks he's his older brother. Which is going to be a real awkward conversation the minute she brings that up around anyone else.
That is quite the lie to tell. But, you know, it does come from Al, and Bernie basically just has to go along with it.
He has to yes and that,
which, you know, I don't blame him. It's just, you know, the fact that Chris believes that.
Like,
when it's been implied, she's known him for years.
Like, she recognizes him before he recognizes her. And she's like, don't you remember me from like 3 years ago? And I'm like, so when he tells you that he has this older brother that's from a different mom,
Yeah.
What?
You feel like that would have come up at some point. I swear, I thought it was gonna go into like, and I expected this multiple times with Chris, where like it would come across that like she actually knows more than she's ever letting on. Like she's actually like basically an intelligence operative, and basically just being like, I know how to lie. I know when someone else is telling a lie, and I'm gonna investigate this. But that doesn't happen.
That would be like an interesting aspect of this. I think that would actually, it would maybe only work if there was like more episodes. But I also like,
and if she was focused on more, because we only get more screen time with her near the end when she's just a pilot.
Yeah, when the big robots go smash.
Yeah. No one saw that, but I basically just did like a mock. Yay!
Yeah,
clap.
The sound did not come through. Patchy.
But yeah,
don't play the sound. I thought you were gonna play the soundboard for a second. I was like, please don't do that.
No. Not when we're recording. I have standards. I'm professional. I only do that to annoy us in like our normal calls.
I think the only clapping one we have is the 9/11 one anyway, so that'd be real weird.
Can you not do that out of context, please?
It's a Family Guy edit, don't worry about it.
Yeah. The point is, it would have been interesting if it went that way, but I think it suffers from the fact that it just didn't have the episodes for that, because at the end of the day, this is a 6-episode OVA.
I think it would have needed to have been like a 12-13 episodes length thing for that to really have worked. But also like I do think, as much as I like this series, like there are times I think the run time's a little long as well. For what's actually told, I do think some episodes feel like they have some dead air to them. Yeah,
I felt that. It's what stopped me from really giving it like a straight 10 out of 10, because spoiler, I rated this pretty high.
Yeah, you rated it higher than me. You gave it a 9 and I gave it an 8.
Yeah. For the story it's telling, it does it really well. The way I sort of review these is that for what I take what it's going for, and if it does it like really well, I base it off of that, along with just other stuff like just my taste and whatever. If it's, I'm sort of learning that I think I maybe do like mech shows actually. So that kind of just on the vibes level put it pretty high, but then what it was going for just did it really well.
Yeah.
But like the main flaw I had was that there are some points where there's just some dead air.
Because like even though it's like
not much happening,
a personal story, it's very Al focused. I think there's, we talk about giving things breathing room. I think there's giving things breathing room, and then there's giving things too much space.
Yeah. There's breathing room and then there's padding.
Yeah. And sometimes it feels like that's sort of where things end up. They err just a little too far out of breathing room and into padding. And it feels like it comes from like they wanted to do roughly like 30-minute episodes. And so sometimes they kind of had to just scribble in some extra stuff to get to that point. Which is what really kind of knocks it down for me. I really do like the series. I think it's incredibly effective. I love seeing the journey that Al has to go through from someone who's very misinformed about the situation and learns it in the most horrific way possible. And I like mechs.
Yeah. You're definitely a mech fan, like certified.
Yeah, certified. I'm a card carrying mech head. But I do think every time I've rewatched it, I've realized it's maybe just a bit long. I think either the episodes could have been shorter, or maybe they could have lopped off 1 or 2 episodes to just really be, I think, a little more effective or incisive about what they're trying to do. Yeah.
because like I really like looking at it overall. This is definitely a story you could have told in like 4 episodes. I'd say.
Because I think it's the middle portion for me. I think is where it really, like, I think it's maybe episodes 3 and 4 are the ones that feel the most sort of like you just need to get through them to get to the end part, if that makes sense.
No, I get you completely. Yeah.
But like, I think maybe they spend too much time with Bernie and Al trying to do spy shenanigans.
Yeah. And there's that whole sequence where, like, it's bonding them more. It helps you see that, like, why Al would say something like he loves them, like, right at the end. But at the same time, do we really need that spacewalk?
Yeah. They go on a whole episode journey of trying to infiltrate that base. And it's... Yeah... They hit the doors that they spend like probably a whole day going to different parts of it to realize we can't get in this way. They go out into a spacewalk and then they crawl through like this, not the sewers, but like the tunnels or something like that, and then end up in the base. And it's like, okay, I get what you're going for. I think you could just tighten this up a bit. But yeah. I think that's why I rank it just a little bit lower. As I repeat viewings, I've kind of seen some of the things that I think could make it better, if that makes sense. Like, it comes from a place of, I want you to be... I see what you're going for, I know what you want to do, but the way you've presented it, I have notes.
I want you to reach, like, what you're aspiring to, what you're aiming for, basically, For me, it was basically just down to the fact that, like, the sort of dead airness was, like, the only flaw I could really find, because the rest of it is really good. Like, I like the characters that are here. No one was written particularly, like, egregiously or anything. Al, for being the little psychopath that he is written like a kid well enough for it to work.
Yeah.
Even just sort of reinforced by us talking about it right now. The only possible other flaw I could have is maybe not enough time with Chris, but I'm also not sure if that's just because, like, I think she's cute from a design standpoint. So I'm not unbiased there.
I think that it would have benefited from more Chris to sort of give that counterbalance to Al and Bernie's shenanigans. You know, this is what they're doing because they think X is going on, but here's Y happening.
What's the Federation's take on all of this going down? Like, we do see Federation forces, like, talking about the security and stuff, but it's basically mainly like, look, you're a neutral colony, you can sort this out yourself.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or if it's just like the Xeon, like, team getting caught. Yeah. I think it would have, like, really worked if, like, we had gotten maybe just a little bit more of the Federation side, just to see, like, just so we got, like, the whole both sides of, like, the viewpoint thing down.
A kind of more rounded out picture of what's going on. Yeah. I think that kind of covers it for War in the Pocket. We've wandered here, there, and everywhere in the Universal Century to discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was basically sort of acted as a soft reintroduction to Gundam on the show. It's been 3 and a bit years.
Yeah, it's a prologue into stepping back into talking about Gundam, because we're gonna do Zeta soon-ish, and then
we have plans. We've drawn up how we're gonna do it.
We'll probably tackle more stuff after that, probably before going straight to Double Zeta. We'll maybe again, sidestep into like Stardust Memory or something like that. Some of the more side content.
I still have the Blu-ray of the Origin.
Yeah, that's right. The Origin would be interesting. We sort of have decided that we're gonna spare Melina from most of Gundam, but because she's seen the original series, I think the Origins may be something interesting to watch when she's more she's less busy to
Okay, yeah.
So
we're also basically sparing her this because she's not as much of like susceptible to mech stuff as we are. I think that's clear.
She's less inclined to sci-fi in general, but mechs is also something that fundamentally we've discovered is incompatible with her.
Yeah, she's talked to us not at length, but you know, she's just made it clear.
And like that's
which isn't wrong, but we're still judging her. She's not listening to this.
No.
We can say what we want.
No.
You're wrong, Melina.
I've already said that to her face when we were talking about Promare. So you know.
I'm just a good enough friend to do it behind her back.
That's crazy. Chat, clip that.
No.
But yeah, so yeah, I gave it an 8. I think it's a really, like, I love the smaller scale look it takes at the Universal Century, especially this time that it takes place in, you know, the last days of the war and stuff like that, and taking it through a kid's eyes and looking at the loss of innocence and stuff like that. That's fascinating. It loses out on that sort of like padded out feeling that some of the middle parts have for me. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
For what it's like, I've basically already like explained my own ranking, but just like give it like the very brief overview for what it was doing. I think it did it really well. I liked, and it also was just sort of nice stepping into this world and sort of remembering that overall, I think I do like this universe. I am very interested to see where it's going, and having watched this now, I'm a bit more interested in like either watching the original series, like finally, because I kind of know that it did what it was doing way better than the movies.
The only thing the movies
makes
succeed at is that they cleaned up the animation in the final movie, because the final stretch of the original series is when like it was floundering to finish.
Yeah, I do remember you talking about that.
Yeah, so even though you complain about repeated animations in the movies, just know that third movie is a massive, like, pretty much from the ground up reanimated.
Well, that's interesting. I can't wait to like discover more of that. I am much more inclined to watching the origin, which you gave me a while ago, and I just didn't watch again. Sorry. I think also watching Eva like in between like us covering this and like since last time is also sort of in a way helped me flesh out the fact that I think I like mech stuff actually. Because you know, as you know, Eva is currently my favorite anime that we've covered on this show. And I'm not ashamed of that. I even shelled out for the big box set.
Yep. You got the collector's set, which is still, to me, like, even though I've paid more for the Ultimate Edition, I think that collector's set's just bafflingly expensive for what it is.
Yeah, I still paid for it.
You know, I don't blame you. You know, you didn't have it. For me, it was like a case of I looked at it because I was like, the Ultimate Edition is massive. It's Laserdisc sized, so it's kind of unwieldy to pull out and watch. And I was like, maybe I can get one of the collector sets to watch for watching. And then I see the price when they announced it, and I was like, absolutely fucking not. No.
Yeah. I got it because I did just want that original dub physically. That's like the main reason I did it. And like, I know it's not the perfect set because it doesn't have Fly Me to the Moon, but that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless I wanted to import.
Which then wouldn't have subtitles or the dub or anything like that. So you have to subsist on the fact that every time they did a new re-release, I manually synced everything up because I own the older releases with Fly Me to the Moon and stuff like that on it, so yep.
And I thank you for that.
But we've also watched other mech stuff, like we covered Pat Labor this season, we did Promare soon after.
Oh,
we did Gundam, we've done...
I don't know how I forgot Pat Labor.
I think we've done like one other mech thing. Or mech adjacent, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's one of my favorite genres, and although I know Melina doesn't necessarily like it that much, I there is an overriding factor of, like, sometimes I'm just like, well, we can watch mech stuff. We should watch mech stuff.
yeah. And if we have to do it when, like, Melina's just not here, then that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, you know, you're discovering that mechs are the way.
I have enough of a foundation at this point to know I think I'm a fan of this genre. So I think it's time to, like, explore more of, like, the mech show, the mech series, basically. In my head, it is anyway.
Yeah, I think to most people, like, Gundam is the mech show, other than Transformers, which is, you know...
Doesn't count.
It kind of does, but that's in a whole other conversation that I'm not willing to get into anytime soon.
Yeah. So anyway, we've been recording for a long time.
Yes.
I sure hope there isn't something else we were supposed to cover during all of this.
So, the other thing, Sword of the Stranger. It's certainly 105 minutes of things happening on screen.
It looks really good.
It looks nice. Yeah, it's consistent. I feel like the only way I could phrase this sounds overly mean, but I don't mean it meanly. I think it looks very what's the best way to put it? Like, not...
Does it look like it was made in 2007?
A little bit. I think there's just an overriding, like, this looks like an anime, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Like, if you take the generic approximation of anime...
It is an anime's anime.
Yeah. And, like, it's not until that last fight where, like, it really steps up and has, like, the kind of stuff I like in anime, of, like, you know, good animation. Not that the animation in the rest of the movie is bad. It's just, it's very, like, they clearly saved all of the budget.
Yeah, it's not, like, impressive, because there's not really much movement happening, really, in, like, most of the scenes before, like, the climax.
There's also... It's got a very monotone palette, too.
Yeah, which... I want to say, I think it works for the tone of what they were going for.
It certainly does. I think it does a slight disservice to the some of the stuff that was present in the Sengoku period. Like, I don't think it was as sort of monotonous as it's presented. I think there were more pops of color. However, I can only really rely on Akira Kurosawa's presentation of the period.
Because this is a samurai anime.
Yeah,
like, it's just a samurai movie that is an anime.
Yeah, it's the classic Ronin has to protect a kid. It's a I mentioned Rurouni Kenshin in my review. However, the one I should have also mentioned is Lone Wolf and Cub, because that's very much
that's what I was thinking of. I was literally just looking it up. Sorry, I was literally just looking it up because I was like, what is that thing that I know inspired so many of, like, the Western sort of thing? Yeah. I had The Mandalorian in my head.
But I mean, that's where The Mandalorian also gets the idea from. Even if it doesn't, it might not even directly know that's where that idea comes from, because we've talked about this before. The Western and samurai genres have Ouroboros themselves so much over the last 70 odd years or more.
Yeah. I will say, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think Jon Favreau has straight up, like, mentioned.
Oh, okay.
I think. If I'm wrong and I'm just completely misremembering, that's on me.
I may have been thinking a little too harshly of Favreau then, because I definitely thought he's not that
please don't turn this into a Star Wars conversation.
No. I'm not trying to. I'm purely like, he doesn't strike me as someone who was in the know in that capacity. You know what I mean? Like, because Lone Wolf and Cub is influential, but it's also become one of those, like, not that many people know about it nowadays.
It's influential because the things that it influenced became influential themselves.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was trying to...
If that made sense. That sentence made sense, right?
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, there is purely the idea that I think Jon Favreau and the team behind The Mandalorian, not just to paint him specifically, but, like, it's very possible that they were influenced by the things that were influenced by Lone Wolf and Cub, not knowing that those were influenced by Lone Wolf and Cub.
And I am also really glad you mentioned, like, the whole conversation of the Ouroboros that is the Western genre and the samurai like genre, because as someone who's not seen, admittedly, many samurai movies, Kurosawa's on my list.
Yeah,
I hear his movies are long, but they're on my list.
Yeah, they're all like 3 hours long.
Yeah, I'll get to them. But I have seen a few westerns, specifically the Man with No Name trilogy, and while those aren't perfect movies, I it's been a while, but I do have, like, things I could say about, like, those movies. Watching this did heavily remind me of watching a western.
Yeah,
like, it has that sort of tone, and, like, westerns aren't always, a good chunk of the time from what I've seen, aren't, like, big action, like, set piece of movie. There's a lot of slower moments that happen, like, in this movie, to the point where you could call them boring, and there is one in my head that I would say was basically mainly boring.
What's that one then?
I didn't like A Few Dollars More when I watched it.
I haven't seen the Dollars trilogy. The big western I can name is Unforgiven. That's sort of one I always think about when I'm thinking of westerns.
That's one I really need to get to as well, yeah.
Funnily enough, I had seen the Japanese samurai remake, and I don't mean an Ouroboros situation, I mean a direct remake of Unforgiven.
Is it also called Unforgiven?
Yeah, it was also called Unforgiven. It's got the Japanese, like, name, but translated in English, it's Unforgiven. It's the same story, but set in Edo period. I think it's Edo period Japan, with Ken Watanabe in the main role. And I had saw that, like, years before I finally watched Unforgiven, which was, I think, just last year, maybe, or the year before.
Yeah, it was recently-ish.
Yeah. But that's the sort of westerns I always kind of think of, and those are more sort of subdued in the way that they approach it. They're not the John Wayne westerns.
No, they're not like the constant cowboy dueling sort of thing. Like, I think of the Dollars trilogy, I think, like, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is admittedly the best one
that's
of that trilogy from what I've seen. Yeah, it's a bit more like there's more set pieces in that movie that are, like, memorable and, like, have like a plot that, like, sort of keeps going, whereas, like, Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More, there's a lot of quiet moments and just a lot of, like, sort of breathing in the genre itself, which can sometimes work and sometimes just kind of feels a bit boring.
Yeah, because the one thing that, like, that both genres can lean into is that they're very Vista filled. You know, like, a lot of the places that Western stories are going to take place in is the frontier. It's America prior to big cities. It's America prior to really towns in general. It's pushing out west and manifesting
towns, but like it had towns, but like those towns weren't under like any federal government or maybe even like a state government. Like it was very much, or at least the idea of what we think of as the American frontier, because the Western genre is a lot of it is mythology more than history.
Yeah, which is why I think like there's sort of a split in the Western as a presentation. It's you have this sort of post World War II up to maybe like the 70s, where there was it was the John Wayne era, it was the cowboys and Indians, it was the, you know, the very stereotypical, the Native Americans,
the heroic.
Yeah, the Native Americans are the bad guy. They've stolen a white woman, and John Wayne or Jimmy Stewart or some other guy from then has to go and save them, and they're the good guy. And then you have post that, which is most often referred to as the revisionist Western, which is a more
that's what I was gonna say.
Nuanced and closer to reality take of like this was of what frontier America was like.
Life was. Yeah, and like how later, if you're setting it later on in like the Old West period, how much like the civilization, to try and like do a fucking terrible Arthur Morgan impression, was basically encroaching in, and like it was always coming in like it wasn't too far behind.
Yeah,
it was always just sort of there, especially post Civil War. It's just, you know, the frontier life has been very like mythologized, and it gives into that American ideal of like self-sufficiency, even though that was never quite as real as they believed it to be. I kind of want to like liken it to like, even though Red Dead Redemption 1 was still but a revisionist Western showing like the nuances and stuff, it's very much a difference between like the spaghetti Westernness of like the first game of Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a lot more of a historical accuracy. Not quite frontier deserts. There were still towns that were still the frontier, but like, you know, they're right next to a city that has been heavily industrialized.
Yeah, Red Dead 2, like, it's weird because Red Dead 1 takes place after Red Dead 2 and is more of a spaghetti western, but Red Dead 2 has that more the West is dying vibes to it.
It's more just like the specific settings, because Red Dead Redemption 1 was in a desert that was on the border with Mexico, whereas like the vast majority of Red Dead Redemption 2 is in, not like, I don't know how best to describe it, like sort of like the Rocky Plains or whatever. That sort of Midwest feel, I guess, in that time period. If I'm wrong, and there's like people who know way more about this than me can give a better explanation, I'm sorry.
We are
that's how, like,
un-American. We are not American.
Exactly, but like our point is, I feel like again, not an expert, but like the samurai movies kind of fall into that same thing where it sort of mythologizes those eras, I imagine, a lot more than giving historical accuracy.
A little bit. I think like the reason Kurosawa stuff stands the test of time is because it does sort of fall into that challenging the sort of like the mythological aspect of it, and taking more of like a, not a deconstructive approach, but like Seven Samurai was one of the first ones to sort of paint like a samurai conflict and battle as not a necessarily heroic and clean and honorable thing. It was messy, it was bloody, and it was uncomfortable.
Not in the same way we view like mythological, like legendary knights of like European folklore of like chivalry and like all those like codes of honor, like similar to Japan's Bushido, as far as I'm aware, and how that's mythologized a little bit. But more like how most knights and samurais were in service of lords who wanted land, money, power, and all that stuff. And we see that a little bit in Sword of the Stranger. Like the samurai we see in service of like the lord of whatever this region is.
Lord Akaike, I think.
Akaike. Not heroic. not really out for any like sort of idealism or anything. They stage a coup basically at the end.
And then the coup leader also unceremoniously dies, but also then we find out after that all of them are dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, which, you know, it's part of the theming of both the samurai movies and the Western genre of just, at the end of the day, violence just sort of, or revisionist Western, I guess, violence just sort of leads to death, and you don't really gain anything of much worth.
Yeah.
You just sort of end up with physical and mental scars.
It is sort of like a weird thing for the story to do it in the way it does. I think because of this whole like thing of the Ming Dynasty being present, it adds this kind of weird layer on top of it. It's like where in a traditional revisionist sort of Western samurai flick approach, we understand these concepts. Layering on Japan's sort of main adversary throughout its history on top, and they lose.
It is a little weird.
Yeah, I'm like, it's sort of that weird thing. It's like, I kind of don't know actually what that's trying to say. And maybe it's not trying to say anything. Maybe it is just trying to be in service of a cool movie. But at the same time, it has all those things of the revisionist eras that make you think it's trying to say something. And I'm like, I don't know.
I will admit.
What? No, I just trying to say.
I will admit I did feel like there could have maybe been an undercurrent there that I didn't really want to pick up on, which is like, it's kind of weird how like the bad lord and the bad samurai stuff are sort of in an alliance with this foreign power. Who also just happens to be an enemy, an historical enemy, quote unquote, on like with Japan that they did kind of invade that one time.
Yeah.
Granted, it wasn't the Ming at that point, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like adding this sort of foreigner-led antagonist thing that could maybe be a bit of an undercurrent that I'm not sure, I think maybe isn't trying to say anything like that, but there is an undercurrent that's like, is it trying to say that? I'm just not fully understanding it.
I think what throws me is simply like the actual time period it's set, because it's the Ming Dynasty. It's the Sengoku period in Japan, which is the warring states, which means there's no unified Japanese ideal. It's lords, it's daimyos, it's regional. It's not until you have like the shogunate periods later where there's a unified idea of not Japanese identity yet. That wouldn't be until like
there's an overarching government that's trying to like unify the whole like country, bar maybe or maybe not Hokkaido. It really helped.
That would come later.
I started playing Ghost. I started playing Ghost of Yote. It really helps that I started playing Ghost of Yote like not long before watching this, so I'm kind of in the mindset already.
Yeah.
Of historical Japan and like samurai like cinema and all that. Quite the coincidence, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, this was like at that point, and when like the game takes place, that's like right at the beginning of the Edo period, as far as I'm aware, which is like Japan is just in a unified sort of era.
Yeah, it's 1603. Thank you. That's it. Yeah. So it's Edo period. They've got guns. They're about 100 to 800 years away from like becoming Imperial Japan.
But like the shogun is in charge.
Yeah, no, like that's what I mean. Is it's like this is the 200-year period of the shogunate, and so if you're gonna do a like enemy of the state story, then this is a more opportune. The setting of Ghost of Yote, the time period it takes place, is a more opportune time to tell that story, and it bears more like meaning and thrust behind allying with the Chinese. I don't know who would have. I don't know what dynasty it would have been at the time of Edo period Japan.
Was it still the Ming? Because I think the Ming lasted a while.
I don't think the Ming lasted like 300 years though. That's sort of the classic thing of China.
It kind of did.
Did it? Wow.
Yeah, from 1368 to 1644 on the first line of Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. Even then, like that's like then the perfect time to do like a Ming betrayal coup style plot of like someone working with an enemy of the state and ultimately being betrayed by them, because one, the Ming sort of have more of an incentive over the fact of like they're in their dying days at that point. Yeah, there's 40 odd years left, but like you know, things, Rome didn't fall in a, no, Rome wasn't built in a day, god damn it, Rome did fall in a day, what am I talking about?
Yeah, but like there was like a long like period of like Rome was falling.
Rome atrophied over a period of time, and so
yeah, like the decline like section of like the Ming Dynasty again on Wikipedia starts in 1572.
There you go. So you know, Edo period lines up perfectly with like they see Japan rising and then are like, okay, well we need to do something about this. Let's work with someone in like who is disillusioned with the shogunate or whatever, and then ultimately they get betrayed later on, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. I from that perspective I understand that. Transposing that to the Sengoku period when there's less of a cohesive like ideal of Japan, it doesn't quite like make sense in the same way, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. It's more like Japan has its own problems inside Japan. It feels a lot better, even just on a narrative sense, to like the whole idea of like the samurai not being quite as honorable and being more, you know, soldiers for a lord, like an overarching lord. It makes more sense to do it. It makes less sense to have the Ming be just an element of that at all. I also want to state, as someone who knows just like enough of the history to like, I kind of have to point out, it's weird that the Ming are here at all.
Yeah.
Just as a thing, because like no invasion of Japan really happened or anything like close to that happened outside of when the Mongols tried.
Yeah,
and
like
got typhooned.
That's sort of the infamous thing about Japan, is that they've never had an actual land invasion because of
it's the benefit of being an island nation, which we should know. We're on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's funny because there's multiple times over the last month or so where the parallels of the UK and Japan have come up just randomly in our conversations or things that we've talked about. But yeah, like you say, it's odd that they're even there in the first place. Like there's no precedent for that as a thing.
It's not historical as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it either.
Most of China, for most of its history, was very much more concerned about its own borders or the inner disputes of its current borders right now, which in and of itself is a whole discussion to have. But
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like it's maybe incorrect to call China like an isolationist nation for a vast majority of its history, but that's sort of closer.
Definitely not. It was still trading. But...
yeah, but like it's sort of foreign interests were more isolationist in the sense of they were more concerned about them. Nationalistic is maybe the more accurate word, but obviously again, it ties into this thing of like Asia is a fascinating bed of like national identity is not something that was codified for them until much later on, and more into our modern day interpretation of these regions.
Compared to like Europe throughout its history, like we had sort of stable-ish kingdoms, or at least an idea of like, this is Scotland under the King of Scots, that's England under their king, over there's France that has their own kingdom. Whereas places like China, a lot of its history was like internal, like civil wars and like different dynasties taking power and sort of defining the culture through who the emperor was at that time instead of just this land.
Like eras of there being like 3 dynasties at a time, just based in different regions. It's sort of like the feudal system of Japan during a lot of that time, where it was you know, daimyos and stuff like that. There was no kind of like overall arcing leader, even though each dynasty probably had its own emperor. But there was like, I think the one I always remember is like there was 3 of them competing at one point in time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like the War of the 3 Kingdoms, or that might be another one.
It's called the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms, I think, in history. But
okay,
not even talking about the movie anymore. We're still just talking about history.
No. I mean, it's so ingrained in the history and the time period and stuff. So I don't think it's weird that we're talking about like that as a factor.
No, 100%. I get that.
Because like when you bring the Ming Dynasty into your samurai movie, it kind of necessitates talking about the history of Japan with China.
Yeah. Like, because, you know, to go back to the whole, like, Japan's never been invaded. Ghost of Tsushima is already a kind of what-if scenario, you know?
Yeah, like, what if they stuck around on an island for that long enough to kind of control it?
Yeah, and then you've just got the Ming here, and, like, is it the Emperor that's with them? Like, is that legit just the actual Emperor?
No, because he talks about like the Emperor and like how it's the Emperor that sent him to like get this immortality potion that they're trying to get, but like he talks about how he secretly kind of wants to take it for himself. So that old as fuck guy isn't the Emperor, but he seems to work for the Emperor.
Right, because that was what, like, as it sort of got closer to the end, I was struggling with, is like, is he the Emperor? Is he like a representative of the Emperor, but he's got his own schemes? Because then
I think it's that.
Yeah, because then he levels the accusation at Lao Lang of like, he wants the immortality thing, and Lao Lang could not give any less of a shit about any of this. He just wants to fight. He's the classic warrior that just wants to fight people.
Yeah. He is just the antagonist of the movie. And I gotta ask, because I don't think there was ever really given any point, why is he like a foreign character, and why is that like a specific part of his characterization? Because he is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy.
He's European. He's either Russo or Slavic or European, and it's never explained. It's just never
European, but yeah.
Yeah,
so
never.
Almost Germanic.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't even really make sense for like Japan's history either, because you'd think if there's any sort of Europeans there, it would be the Dutch.
Yeah, the Dutch would have been around, like around this time. I think they would have been trading with the Dutch, and the Portuguese, and then soon around this time or after they would have been kicked out.
Have been thinking of.
They were trading with both for a while. The Portuguese, I think, got there first. I can't remember. But yeah, then they would have got kicked out, and there was the whole like outlawing of Christianity and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and then there's the isolationist era. The isolationist era comes knocking.
Yeah, open the doors. Stop having them be closed.
Stop having it be closed. Thank you, Matthew Perry.
Not that Matthew Perry.
I know. History from that one YouTube video from 10 years ago now.
God. But yeah, no. Him being there makes like 0 sense, because, you know, I don't think China. I think China has a similar history of xenophobia.
Kind of. I think just sort of the seaports in that part of the world didn't really become that connected with Europe. Like China, I think, was kind of trading with Europe through specifically like the Silk Road, I think it was, or
Yeah.
whatever. But that was sort of like far away enough that they weren't
Uh-huh.
in like regular contact. It wasn't until like the full-on Imperial era before Europe got its hands on that part of the world.
Where Britain turned up and went, we have Hong Kong now.
Yeah, where they came in like, hey, you're a big rich country. Let's see if we can exploit you. Oh, look at that. We can get you hooked on opium. Yeah, but at the point in history this is trying to take place in, it just seems another bit of weirdness.
Yeah, 100%.
Along with the fact that Nanashi, who the kid specifically just keeps calling No Name.
Yeah, he is calling him Nanashi. It's just in the subtitles they were like, yeah, we're just gonna render that as No Name, even though linguistically that doesn't parse in the same way that Nanashi does.
I think it makes sense for the fact that it is just like the kid character who is saying that, and I can imagine a kid just calling him No Name.
But like, it's one of those weird things where like he says he's being called Nanashi, as in literally meaning no name, or nameless one, or the one with no name.
Yeah.
However, I
cannot
stress enough that Nanashi linguistically is a name in Japan. It parses as one. In English, no name doesn't fit that same category.
No.
It's not. It becomes a designation and not a name.
Yeah. We made the joke that, or I made the joke that like every time anyone refers to him, they should just like mute the movie. So like literally nothing is being said.
And then I one up that with every time they say that, they should just do the Invincible thing of just showing the movie's title card.
Which, you know, also works.
Yeah.
I'd have watched that. If I had like enough energy, I'd make an edit of that. The name doesn't come up that much. I can do it.
No, yeah, it comes up like I think through 3 times that I counted.
Yeah, same. But yeah, it's also the fact that like Nanashi is also a foreigner.
Yeah, it's a bit muddled, and how it presents
but, like,
it.
We get the startling realization that he is, oh my god, ginger.
Yeah, which is weird because he has red hair, but
it's not like super like what you'd think ginger though.
Yeah,
it's sort of like what I would call comic book Mary Jane redhead, where it's like that sort of deep reddish.
And that's why that also ties into like the thing of you have Lao Lang, who is very clearly Germanic.
Yeah,
and then
stereotypically.
Yeah, but then Nanashi, through his character design, reads as Asian.
Yeah, like I got that too. Like he doesn't not to pass judgment on like race, but like he doesn't look white.
No, like
There's
the movie
no
never presents him as like a similar kind of foreignness as Lao Lang is.
And he's able to be mistaken as Japanese, seeing as the kid character's name I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. But like
Kotaro?
Kotaro, yeah. Let's go with that. Kotaro doesn't even realize he's foreign until like the hair dye like, goes out and he finds and we reveal he's dun ginger.
Yeah, which it just makes
can make that joke. We're Scottish.
Yeah, and it makes it just very confusing because it's like, well, okay, you have this thing that is a thing about him that once it comes up, it bears no relevance.
No.
And never comes up again.
I thought it was gonna like tie into a thing that like, oh, because he mentions he was part of a shipwreck.
Yeah.
Apparently, but he doesn't fully remember. I don't know if that the implication was like it happened when he was like an actual child.
Yeah.
And he's just been around in Japan, or if he's like amnesia. He's got amnesia about it. But like I thought it was gonna tie into the fact that maybe him and Lao Lang,
yeah.
Yeah, Lao Lang were gonna be part of like some same crew or whatever like was in that shipwreck, and that's why Lao Lang just has immediate beef with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Outside of even the fact that he's just a dick.
Yeah. No, he's just the antagonist, and Nanashi is just the protagonist. So Lao Lang being a crazy man has to just have beef with a guy who he senses is a good fighter.
Which, I gotta say, I do like this movie. I fucking hate whenever just anything does that. When it's just like any antagonist, they want to make them smart or like intimidating or whatever, but they can't think of any way to do it, so they just sixth sense these things. Yeah. And like Lao Lang is just immediately like, you are my nemesis. Even though you've just met the guy.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up because it happened at one point in fucking Daredevil Born Again, and it annoyed me there. And what is also a good show, I need to stress.
Yeah.
But one of the like bad guys in that show just I don't know, he gets like a phone call that is never explained. He just immediately knows one of like the SWAT guys is the traitor or whatever.
Oh, it plays the weird, and it plays a weird version of Infernal Affairs where the whole sort of premise of that movie is that there's two moles. There's one in the police force, and then there's one in the gang that they're tracking down, and it's trying to figure out who it is and who, like, from both sides. And that, you know, really interesting concept. But when you don't play it right, when you don't give it the actual execution and build up,
when you basically just drop the answer on a character, but like basically to me it just screams of like the writer forcing this conclusion to happen. And it annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
And it's lazy to me. It's just pure laziness to me.
The movie does have like a lot of different interesting ideas that it never really makes use of, and I think that's what bugs me the most, because it has all of these elements and then it's just kind of boring for a long stretch of it, where my attention was really struggling for a long time in this movie. And it wasn't until like I think they get to the temple, and then Kotaro gets kidnapped and stuff, and it's like that was when I got like properly invested in fully watching it again. But
well, that's when the movie really just picks up, and it's like, oh, this is the part that you can tell they maybe wrote this part first and then wrote everything else backwards from it.
Yeah, it's definitely a start at the end and work your way to the beginning type affair.
Or just the idea of, I have a cool idea for like a fight scene in my head, but like I and then building a story around that fight scene.
We've been talking for. Sorry, you go.
No, I'm also wrapping up.
Okay,
it's like overall, I think I do like this movie, but like I wouldn't say it's got much substance to it.
Yeah. Like I my first viewing, which I can see on Letterboxd in my anime list, I did give it a 7, but on second viewing it did drop for me, because I think there's a slight emotional manipulation going on, and that's the aim of every piece of media, is it's meant to emotionally manipulate you.
Of course.
But the music specifically is used in a way that's meant to just... It clearly wants you to feel a thing in place of actually having the things on screen be the things that lead you to beginning to feel that, and then the music happens and you feel that more intensely. It has a very Lord of the Rings, Hans Zimmer-esque sound to it. Howard Shore, sorry. That's Lord of the Rings guy, not Hans Zimmer. Has more has more of a, it has that Lord of the Rings Howard Shore sound to it.
Yeah.
And it plays in a similar way of, like, in the Lord of the Rings, the stuff that's happening on screen, the way the characters interact, the things that they do, the story beats are all executed in a way where you already feel investment, you already feel invested in these characters, you feel a certain way about the things that are happening on screen. Like, take the end of the Fellowship where the Orcs are attacking the Fellowship, they're breaking up, and Boromir's having his last stand. It's like, you're already feeling a certain set of emotions, Howard Shore's score is only there as the reinforcement to really intensify what you're feeling.
Like, it's built the foundation already there. Like, it's earned that emotional moment just on a narrative perspective, not just on, like, the music.
Yeah, whereas this movie, it's like, well, what if we take that, because that's so successful, and play that, and you're gonna feel the things that we want you to feel. Like, I think the soundtrack's really good. I like the use of the I don't know if it's a flute or like a wood it's some kind of wood instrument is the main kind of instrument at play, but I don't like how emotionally manipulative it's trying to be without putting in the groundwork of actually telling a compelling and investing story, if that makes sense.
I think I agree. Yeah, it is a good soundtrack, but like, it does a bit more of the heavy lifting than it really should.
So yeah, we've been talking for a while. We probably haven't talked as much about Sword of the Stranger as we have about Mobile Suit Gundam, but
admittedly, I think that was always going to happen.
Yeah, yep, that usually happens with the stuff that we cover. There is usually one thing that gets like the bulk of the episode, and then the other one's like 20 minutes.
I say we're typically better at it when, like, it's the three of us. I feel like sometimes when it's the two of us, we have one thing that we're more particular towards.
But yeah, so scores on this one, I gave it a 6. Like, I think it's interesting, but ultimately executed in a bit of a weird way, and that falls flat for me.
I gave it a 7 because, well, like I said, I don't think it has that much substance to it. It's not like a deep movie or anything. You're not gonna end up like a super fan of like of any series or this universe or whatever if you watched it. But if you're looking for like a samurai movie to put on, or like just something that's like visually appealing to put on, and maybe not lose yourself too, but just sort of to watch something of that style, I think it does it. I think it does its job well enough. So I'd give it a 7.
That's fair. I think that's very valid. So yeah, that's been this episode of Anime Lane. We're easing ourselves back into Gundam. So you can look forward to, not in this season, because this is the last batch of episodes that you're going to be experiencing of this season. That'll probably be coming up in the next season, in season 5, which is so weird.
What a start.
So yeah, we will see you guys next week. We currently have no idea what the fuck's going on with the other episodes
Shut
yet.
up.
So
We're so put together. We know what we're doing. Shut up.
So whatever that may be, we hope you enjoy it. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.